Welcome to Rooster Talk. This is our first one for 2023 in the year of the rabbit. We're here at the University Club in Crawley on the campus of University of Western Australia. And we're here with Mount Ridley Mines Limited. Guy LePage is here to tell us what they've been up to. Guy has been on Coffee with Samso lately, but today he's here to give us an update. We've been a while since the last time we spoke. So Guy, welcome.
Thanks for having me, Samso.
Look,
Mr. Samso.
Mr. Samso. Mr. Samso to you, mate. Look, what's been up? You know, we've had a conversation a while ago. Mount Ridley is all about rare earths in the Esperance region. So, yeah, far away.
More of the same, which is good because we've had more good results down in Esperance. We've picked up 2 new prospects, one Marvellous Marvin after the great middleweight boxer. No longer with us, unfortunately, but that's right down to the southeast of the prospect. We've picked up some very high grade and extensive mineralisation, quite a few intersections over 20-30 metres. Right up to the north, we've picked up a new prospect called Jody. Again, sort of very high grade results right up to the boundary, sort of heading towards the Mia prospect. So we're now up to 11 prospects. We've done 10,000 metres of diamond drilling, a lot more samples to come in. So this last announcement was around about 1,400 samples. So drilling's sort of back on, and we're still hoping to punch a resource out sort of third quarter this year.
I had a look at your announcements where you had all these tenements. I mean, it is a very extensive package now, as opposed to the last time I looked at it.
Yeah, it's a big package. It hasn't necessarily changed, but looks bigger because the drilling footprint's expanded. Part of the sort of challenge is doing the heritage clearances. So that's quite a logistical exercise when you're doing tens of kilometres of clearances. So that slowed us down a bit, but thankfully the Noongar and the anthropologists have been quite supportive and trying to sort of get ahead of our drill crew.
Yep. In terms of the rare earth sector, for those guys who are following it, has there been any change in that market?
There's been a little bit of upward movement across the board. The basket price had fallen to about $100 a tonne. It's now sort of picking up. I mean, it's forecast in the next 10 to 15 years to move to about $250 US a kilo. So, you know, there is a belief it'll pick up. There's certainly not a lot of new supply coming on, a lot of exploration, but there's no new supply in the pipeline. So, you know, we'd expect that market to continue to tighten.
Interestingly, I don't know whether it's related or not, but in January, the molybdenum price went up 94% or something.
Yeah.
I mean, is there a relationship to that? Because that's very odd, right? Because that's a very sort of...
That's more, moly's really more of a steel hardening commodity, but you're seeing some extreme supply-demand problems in, you know, across all the metals. You know, we've seen copper had a pretty big run late last year. We've seen big spikes in palladium, which has now come back. So I think you're going to see a lot more of this. You know, nickel, despite a 20% increase in supply projected for this year, you know, sitting up around 28,000 US a tonne. So you're going to see a lot of volatility moving forward, I think.
In terms of sensitivity to mine closure and supply shortage, I mean, to me, that was a big reaction to, like for moly, right?
Yeah.
We're talking about this Peruvian mine closure now, but do you see that going across the board?
Well, I can see, I mean, you mentioned Peru, where there's been a lot of, you know, landholder activity. You've seen a lot of sort of left-wing policies trying to be pushed forward in Chile. You know, you're now seeing first world knockbacks on, you know, some important copper and zinc projects. I mean, there were 2 big ones, one in Alaska and one in Minnesota a few weeks ago that the US government had knocked on the head. So, you know, while we perceive the developing world as high risk, I think the first world's, you know, not far behind. So I've never seen supply as tight as it is now across, you know, most of the metals.
Yeah, it's because I think that's a very important point to highlight. Is because that supply. Now we all talk about supply and demand, you know, 10 years ago, and it's sort of never became apparent, but
Yeah.
I just feel the sensitivity is much greater now.
Enormous. I mean, if you look at uranium as a good example with the Sprott Uranium Trust, that soaked up all the available uranium. Now they bought over 55 million pounds. And so if you look at the end users, you know, that used to be a go-to market to top up their supply. Well, that's no longer there. So they're now going upstream into exploration to shore up a bit of supply. So, you know, uranium is one market that's, you know, very tight. We haven't seen the big price movements yet, but they're coming. You know, you look at the short squeeze on nickel about a year ago. A lot of the, you know, warehouses have been cleaned out. You know, the LME warehouses and the other warehouses that are out there. So there's a lot of, you know, the whole metal market's becoming very tight.
Going forward for Mount Ridley, what's out there for investors to look forward to?
Well, we've got a lot more air core drilling. You know, we've finished those 10,000 metres of diamond drilling. We're doing a lot of the ore characterisation. So what we're trying to do is unscramble the egg, effectively. We're starting to see differences in the felsic, sort of granite-derived rare earths compared to the mafic. We're starting to see differences in beneficiation. You know, the ability to beneficiate out all the waste, all the silica, and hopefully get a high-grade product. So there's a lot of work going around the metallurgy. You know, we've got you know, many thousands of metres of air core to drill. We've got hopefully a fairly substantial maiden resource third quarter this year. We're hoping it'll be a bit early, but it's been a little bit slower. You know, we had a lot of wet to deal with last year, and the line clearances have been a little bit slower. So there's plenty of news to come, I think.
And for the guys who are sitting and say, oh no, why should I buy your stock, Guy? You know, what's sell your soul to them?
Well, I mean, a lot of, you know, the value and resources about where they are. So if you look at the location of Mount Ridley, it's brilliant. You know, 50 k's from the Esperance port, most of it's Crown land. We're not on the high value farming land, which is, you know, a lot of Esperance. We've got significant resource potential there. We've got road, power, water. So from an infrastructure play, you know, I don't think you can get a better location. We're getting, you know, very high grades. I think the key to, I think, the next value uplift, and I think it's not just true of Mount Ridley, but all the other rare earth explorers, is people are a little bit unsure about the flow sheet and what that's going to look like. You know, what reagents are we going to use? What's the acid consumption? You know, what's it going to look like? Is it heap leach, atmospheric leach? So I think that's where a lot of the effort's been put at the moment. And, you know, they were the discussions around the REE conference last week about metallurgy. But I think Mount Ridley's in a brilliant position. You know, we're surrounded by other explorers, so, you know, hopefully there's a hub there that, you know, maybe one day we can build a refinery, who knows.
Safety in numbers, I guess.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, look, Guy, thank you for updating us. I've just included a new segment in Rooster Talk. It's an opportunity to rub the rooster. If you rub it right, the Buddha, you know, Buddha, you rub the tummy, so you got to figure out where's the lucky spot for the rooster.
Well, I got to be politically correct, so I might just stroke it on the crown, because if you touch it anywhere else, I might be in trouble.
Yeah. All right, mate. Thanks.
All right.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Happy.
Till next time.